Do you use runes as a written language? No, I do not. As a solitary practitioner, I would be the only one to read whatever it is that I write. I do put inscriptions in my books of shadows of protection to keep prying eyes out of it, and I do sometimes inscribe in runes on my tools, but nobody would see it otherwise, and on the things I do, nobody's to see it anyway. It is protection spells or enchantments to keep people out, or things to scare people away. As far as in the past goes, in covenants or groups, whether I resided over them or just dwelled within them, we did on a light basis, but not importantly and not foremostly. Do you feel you have natural gifts such as premonitions, hearing spirits, and if you do, is it what had led you to your path within spirituality? And the answer to that would be no. I have been in contact with the spirit world since I was 2 at the earliest that I can remember, and I'm pretty sure before that, but as an infant wouldn't remember much before that. And I feel that I'm a natural witch that comes from way beyond this life even, and had added to myself the Wiccan path long after Christian spirituality and becoming a minister within non-denominational religion. Had decided thereafter to embark on many different paths because I knew that there was more out there. It was a conscious decision to seek out other pathways of religion, and therefore had nothing to do with my ability or gifts. Let's see, what deity do you work with, and if any, why? Well, I work with the 8, and those are Diana, Cronunnos, Isis, Osiris, Green Man, Green Lady, Adonai, and Manu. There are many different gods from many different pantheons, and they each have a particular place with me within my circle. And at the various times that I would be calling on them, they are the one in the place of honor while the others are still called and honored. I would do a video on my gods and deities separately, but not in this one. Let's see. Have you always worked with the same deity? Whenever my deities were added to me upon my path of about 32 years, I guess, I have never defaulted from them, never casted them from my lives, or changed them out. But I have had them added to me till I reach these 8, and have decided that they are my final 8. My spirit more or less just told me that there would be no more added after this. And each of those 8, they fulfill the jobs that would be necessary for my life. And basically they're all I need, and I feel strongly in those. Do you use any personal items in your practice such as blood, tears, urine, semen, or sweat, anything like that? I will use personal fluids and hair, things of this nature within my works. I'm not one that would abstain from that. I do practice witchcraft and Wicca, and if they say in Wicca that you shouldn't, and I really haven't seen anybody being 100% steadfast against that, then I would not listen to that part. I'm an eclectic spiritualist, and I adhere to many different pathways, so I would do so. If it were coming from another person, I will only use hair or a snippet of their clothing with their DNA on it that has been worn but not washed. I will never take any kind of fluids from another person to use in spell works, even if it's for them, because I do not feel that I should subject myself to that. So not out of prohibition, but out of cleanliness I will not use fluids from another individual within my works, unless it's a spell work on my own behalf for me, and it would be mine. That would be blood, that would be whatever I need to use. Do you do past life readings, and have you ever had one done? If so, who were you and how did you die? I have done several past life regressions on myself through self-hypnosis, through relaxation and transcendental meditation. I have done many embarkments in astral projection, and I can actually astral into the past through my memories. And I won't let another person work with me on this particular matter. I am just not comfortable doing that. But I have been quite gifted with the knowledges and wisdoms from the past, and found that in 3 lives I was a witch. One of those I died from natural causes, but the 2 times before that I was burned at the stake at age 15 in one of them, and age 36 in another. Quite young lives, I would think. But I would also think that the life of the witch in the days that I existed in would have been quite short-lived as a witch. Okay, let's see. Also, before those lives, I was a knight, and remember standing on a bloody battlefield, a bland piece of property with only one tree in the very center that was kind of resting in a dip, and there was bodies and blood carpeting the entire field and running down and into the dip, feeding and nourishing the tree, it looked like. I don't know what happened at that point. Maybe I died while I was assessing this, but I do remember events from before the battle, and that was that I was married to a lovely wife and had 2 kids. Okay, and so it was quite interesting. And by the way, I haven't actually read through all of these. What is your favorite magical tool? That would be my altar pentagram, my altar plaque with a pentagram on it. It is a pentagram in the center. It has Celtic knot work all around that, and it is squared, the whole thing all together, representing stability and foundation. And the pentagram in the plaque is basically marks it as the only tool on my altar, I believe, let me see, that would have a symbol on it. I don't have very many at all. And those things that I do have are altar plaques. Let's see. And the Celtic knotwork represents eternity and many things threaded through the fate of life. You know, in my opinion, that's what it seems to me. Let's see. What is your somber type of music that gets you into the mood to practice? I like your regular yoga, Reiki, relaxation, meditational type music. And that is whenever I'm practicing actual magic or sitting in my circle to do a task. Whenever I'm celebrating, doing ritual things to do with other people in celebration of holidays or raising energy for whatever reason, then I like the pagan chant music, but that is rare. Okay. What is the animal who was your familiar, if any? And mine was a bird named Reggie, and he died from old age at age 13, 14, somewhere in there. But he died from a pneumonia. He got old and stayed sick a lot. but he lived a good long life. He was a talker. And I was into the Poltergeist series at that time. Not the TV series, but the movie series. There were several of them. But I was into that, and actually got Reggie to say, "They're here." And whenever he said it, it was usually whenever I was in circle. And so it was a little spooky, crazy, with the lights off and all of that. And I was new in paganism. Well, not really, but mid ways of my walk, within paganism. Anyway, he was a very interesting critter. And he could sense the spirits, and he would go crazy. His favorite song was "Everything I Do It For You." Anyway, that was my familiar, and since then, being true to him, I have not had another one. And I do feel that he's still with me sometimes. What in the craft are you best at? My talismans and charms. I am a whiz with talisman and charm. Whether I'm making the exterior portion of it out of the material, or I'm making inserts for what would be a bag or a wrap. I am extremely good with my talismans and charms. Let's see. What in the craft are you weaker at? Let's see, I thought about this a few weeks ago. Let me think. And, on a kind of a shallow level, obviously, because I don't have the answer for you right now. What am I weaker at? Let's see. I feel like I'm pretty strong at all of it, because when I need to do something, I sit down and I do it. I would have to say I'm weakest at writing down everything that I do, keeping my journal up, because I get lazy about that. I do write my stuff down, but it's usually right before the spell work. And I do write my own spells, and I'm extremely good at that, at writing things, keeping up with using my imagination and being poetic and artistic. I write my songs and everything too, but writing things down, organizing. I'm weakest at that. All my herbs are in Ziploc bags here in a trunk. Okay, that's being what I'm weakest at, is organization. Alright. So, and that's where a lot of people are strongest at, actually. Okay, what is your most favorite part of your craft? The favorite part of my craft is getting together with some friends and celebrating the holidays. That is my favorite part. Raising the roof on some celebrational magic to lift up the god and goddess. To also chant and bring on the spirits, to call and invoke. I love that. That's my favorite part of the craft. And I love doing my magic, but I'm a little slow with that a lot lately, because I also do it for a lot of other people. And so I could find myself a little slow at doing it for myself. But I guess that could also be one of my weaker points too. Being sluggish or lazy about doing magic for me. Well, let's see. What was the first purchased tool within your craft? That was my very first pendant, and it was a pewter pentagram, and I really couldn't feel that strongly about it, and so I ended up losing it somewhere along the way, don't even know where. What was, let's see, Having to read this here, you guys. What was the first purchase tool within your craft? That was the pentagram necklace. What was your first homemade tool of your practice? First homemade tool of my practice was a pentagram, also a pendant that was made out of cookie dough, but somehow I made it so hard that it would stand a great deal of time. It was made with an opal, and during Hurricane Opal, on a night of the full moon, well, you couldn't see the moon because of the hurricane, and on the month of my birth, so it was in October. So those were some very, very strong influences. And that pendant actually won me $25,000 at the casino. And I must have left it on the machine because I couldn't find it anytime after that. So I feel like it did its job and then it was gone. And I can only hope that it's doing somebody else a big favor. Although I failed to see how it could be, since it was so personal to me and my birthday on October, during the month of October, using the opal stone, which is Octobrian, and during the Hurricane Opal. So, I do not know how all those influences came about, but it did. And that was just tremendous. Let's see. And very powerful. $25,000 I won in that boat. I've still got the pictures of me holding the big consolation check. The one that they have you hold just for the pictures. And then they give you the regular check right afterward and take their check back. Anyway, so I felt good about that. And I've never been so lucky again afterwards. Let's see. That was my first homemade tool. What are your feelings on raising your kids in the craft? Well, I don't have kids. Never was able to have them. And my sister died, leaving me a nephew named Garrett. And I love him dearly. He stays at his grandma's now. Comes over on weekends all the time, or came over on weekends, but since he's hit 14, he's more independent, and I rarely see him. Anyway, he was coming back and forth from there to here and here to there, and over there he's being raised in a Christian environment, and over here he's learning a lot on paganism, and he feels that he's pagan. I feel that it's been very fruitful letting him be exposed to both, or all religions, if you will. And letting him make his own choice whenever he is ready to do so. I think that's very important to kids. So regardless of what home you are raising them in, as far as religion is concerned, they should be exposed to all of it. Perhaps it's because I am a natural witch, but was raised in Christianity the first 18 years of my life and became a Christian ministress. But I feel that everybody should have a choice. And that is just basically independence. Let's see. If you were a god or goddess, who would you be? I find this to be a very interesting question. Let's see. This is funny. I would have to say I would have to be a goddess of love, because that's what I believe in. And I feel that that's what the world thrives on, or if it doesn't, it's what it should. I would have to be the goddess of love. Okay? And that would be Venus. So, or Aphrodite. The goddess of love and beauty, because I believe the world is beautiful, and I see the beauty in everything, and I feel that everything is beautiful. And the areas or aspects of it that might stick out that are negative or not so pretty, you have to look through as deeply as possible and find the beauty in it, no matter what it is. So beauty and love, I would say that that's Aphrodite. Let's see. Do you use astrology in your practice, and in what ways? I do not. I feel that it's an extremely large field, and if I were to concentrate on astrology all the time, I would not have learned everything that I have in all other areas. And so I do not focus my talents on that, although I think it's a very valuable field. As far as reading the tarot cards, which I value to be more of a different aspect of my life than in my religion, although they could, I guess, link together in so many different ways. I feel that I use astrology on a very light basis to do with psychism, psychic abilities. And that's because within the cards, there is a lot to do with your astrological signs and what they're affiliated with on a psychic level, not a witchcraft level, because the 4 elements that they talk about in regard to the tools in the cards kind of conflict with the Wiccan beliefs as to what those tools, or what direction those tools actually belong in. Like, for instance, in the tarot cards, the tools, the staff is a tool of fire, but in witchcraft, then it is a tool of air. Anyway, that's rather large to get into right now, but I feel that I use astrology in my psychic readings on a light note, but never within my witchery. Although we do also live and abide by the seasons and the rising and the setting of the sun and the directions and so forth. But, you know, that's just paying homage to the sun, moon, stars, and seasons. What, if any ways, could you practice dark magic and still respect your beliefs in Wicca? If casting on somebody to make them sick, if you have seen in a vision that they would die in a car accident on that trip that they were about to take, the place they were about to go to, it would kill them in a car accident, and I had to cast a magic spell to make them ill, to keep them home, I would do it in a heartbeat. But never would I do a spell work to get somebody's man if I wanted him. I would never do a spell work. Actually, I wouldn't even look at a man that belonged to somebody else. There's no need in it. And no excuse in causing disruption in somebody else's life. I feel that in witchcraft, we are the wise ones, and we have to be more adult than that, just to put it quite simple. Anyway, I couldn't see myself doing any dark magic on anyone that would hurt anyone, kill anyone, temper them back, hold them back, come between anyone. It's just not me to do so. I would not do it. And so the answer to that is, you know, this question is not for me. And, you know, that's my answer. Do you have any witches in your family? No. Currently, I do not know of any other witches in my family but me. Maybe also why I haven't seen anybody in my family in a year. Let's see. What item can you not witch without? There is no item I cannot witch without. I feel nature is full of everything that you need. What is your favorite Sabbath or time of year ritual? That would be Samhain, also spelt to say Samhain, but called Samhain or Samhain. And that is my favorite time of year. It's brisk, it's cool, I'm full of energy. The time is the lifting of the veils between different areas in space, being able to contact the spirits, being able to open my home to them coming and visiting. I love Samhain. Let's see. Have you ever had a YouTube burnout? I don't believe I've had a YouTube burnout so much. I guess it could have been to some degree, but really, I don't really feel that it was so much. I had an aunt that died in February or March, and I stepped away around about that same time. It could have been because of the death of my aunt. That was one of the last 2 videos I did. Was getting past the death of loved one. It's called Preparing Yourself for the Loss of Loved One. I believe that might have been the last video I did, and then I walked away for a while. I did have to get my spring garden in the ground, and it was a lot of work afterward, so it could have also been partly due to that. It was an extraordinarily busy time as well as a downtime. So I can't really say it was a YouTube burnout. I like making the videos. I like doing what I do. What is your favorite witchy shop, and do they have an online store? Well, I go through Azure Green for the most part, both as a wholesale company and a retail company. I myself do sell things to people, and my shop was far more stocked, but I started giving way to doing readings more than the sales. And here in the country, not a lot of people to sell to. Not a lot of support from the witches in the area either, which, I had some, complaints about that. They could have come in and bought a package of incense or whatever, but they wouldn't even do that. And, I don't know, maybe they each have their own personal reasons, but I didn't have a lot of support here. However, I do still sell things. And so I would say I'm my own favorite witchy shop, but the mothering company over me, I guess you could say, or the one that I buy my stuff from, would be Azure Green as a retail store. Lately I might have had a few complaints to do with them, whenever buying from them, but overall they're the best place that I found to go through. When buying a witchy item, do you choose it or it choose you? It can be a mixture of both. I feel that there's some items that I just draw to that I love, and some items that just I can't let go of because it cost me. And that happens quite a bit of the time, really. How do you organize your herbs and ingredients? Well, I said before, they're in Ziplocs in a trunk. Okay, I should do it a lot better, but organization is not my strongest suit. As a matter of fact, I could tend to be a slob here in my house. But that's me, and I enjoy life, so love me or leave me. Do you have interest in other deities you don't work with, and which ones? And like I said, no, I will never call to another deity other than my own. Unless I'm standing in circle helping another person who is a witch. Then I'll respect them by letting them call their deities, but I'm still saying mine in my head, because mine are my own and my only ones. Let's see. Do you have a favorite time of day you prefer to do your practice? If so, why? I like to practice early in the morning as soon as I wake up when I have a spell work to do for myself or for a client, because my husband's asleep, I'm bored, don't have a lot to do, and I know that I'll be getting busy later because I don't open my shop till noon. And so, to avoid being seized upon by people interrupting me and doing my works, that is my favorite time. And because my husband's asleep and not bothering me, you know. Other than that, I may be inclined to do religious, ritual, or rather ceremonial practice in the evening times, because it is more of a praise time for me. Are you solitary or do you work in a coven? I believe I've already covered this. I am solitary now. And I prefer to be solitary because I don't have to depend on many other people showing up or what they believe in or what they do. I don't have to get involved with drama in lives that they might bestow upon me due to their arguments or disagreements with other people within the same group or covenant. And there isn't a lot of bed hopping going on whenever I'm practicing alone. And I assure you, 90% of the groups and covenants out there are doing a lot of bed hopping. Please don't think I'm judging you if you're in a covenant or group. I'm not saying that all of them do it. And I'm not saying that it's wrong if they do it, because if it works for them, more power to them. It's not me. It's not what I prefer. It's not what I prefer to be in. And I don't like the drama involved with the fallout. So, I stay solitary in this day and age. Now, whenever I ran covenants of my own, I had ways of keeping out the riffraff, and I didn't have the problem. So don't think I had that in my own personal groups and covenants when I was running them. Let's see. And, let's see, if you could pick a certain witchcraft tradition that fits your practice most, which would it be? Druid, Celt, or Wicca? Druid, Celtic, or Wicca? Let's see. I feel that Wicca best fits my practice. As a witch, I can throw things together and not go through a lot of religious ceremony. And I do that a lot of the time. And I am a witch, a natural witch, as I said before in my video. However, I've along the way acquired a large Wiccan base or aspect or spin to my style. And eclectic Wicca fits basically who I am. And so I hold to that, although I've studied in Druidism, Buddhism, shamanism, and all of that, and you would find trace amounts of that throughout my practice, or maybe not even so much trace amounts. I do have it all weaved throughout, and some of it quite strongly. And it depends on whether I'm healing, which I would use a shamanic type way about things, or if I am doing ritual magic to bring something back or into my life, then I would use Wicca or witchcraft. If I am doing ceremonial practice, a lot of times I'm more druidic. So it really depends on what I'm doing, but I am any and all of the above. What was the most creative spell you ever did, and what did you use? I believe I told you about the talisman that I created. And it was one of the first things I ever did, really. And the way that it worked for me, it further reinforced my pathway in such a grand way that I could never get away from who I am. It was great. It was fabulous. And, you know, if I didn't tell you earlier a lot about that, then you could ask in the discussions below. Let's see. What do you prefer for divination and why? The tarot card readings, I believe I've said that many times in my videos, and I actually have another channel based around the tarot cards. It's what I was handed when I was 18, shortly after finishing my Christian studies to be a minister and becoming ordained. I was handed my first deck of tarot, and understanding them as I did as soon as I picked them up, and getting so much out of it, that had to be it for me. Let me scroll up here so I can get to further questions and answers. Let's see, where was I to begin with? Okay, I see it. Scrolling up. Computer. Okay, what are some ways you keep yourself grounded? Sometimes I'll go out in the rain if it's raining, and I'll let the rain wash it off. Otherwise, I'll go and I'll set out on the direct ground, put my palms directly to the ground, and rest up against a tree and just give it to the earth. I wear a lot of my magic in my hands. My husband notices it all the time. I almost burn him sometimes. I'm a fire starter. And he'll, jerk back, and he'll warn me that my hands are too hot. And, so I wear a lot of it in my hands. So I have to take, and I'll get a stone. And if I can't go outside at that point for whatever reason, I'll give it to a stone. And later on, I'll cleanse that off. Otherwise, I like to go and I'll do a magic spell. The only time I really build up so much energy like that, where I'm wearing it in my hands, is when I haven't done magic in a good while. And so I'll go sit down and I'll focus on something that really needs my attention when I realize that I haven't done it in a while, and I'll do some magic. So that's my favorite way of grounding out. My husband will take some, since he's more about water and love, and he can kind of extinguish a lot of that for me by taking it into himself. And other ways is taking it to the earth and giving it to the earth. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, I scrolled up. No wonder I'm lost. I got used to looking in this one direction. Let's see. What are some of the ways you stay grounded? Have you ever had a spell go horribly wrong? Oh, yes.